Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating journey, I think, into the, engineering of Islamic finance. Our mission for this deep dive is to sort of peel back the layers of a foundational document. We want to understand how a principled financial system like this meticulously builds trust and consistency across global markets. The source material we're working with today is an excerpt. It's from PDF. Now that translates to Shari'ah Standard Gnome 10, Salam and Parallel Salam. And for those perhaps less familiar, a Salam contract, it's essentially a forward sale. Payment is made up front, for goods delivered later. Think of it like prepaying for a harvest that isn't quite ready yet.
Right.
Parallel Salam often involves matching one Salam contract with another. Institutions might use it for hedging, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And they are absolutely fundamental Islamic financial instruments.
So understanding their guiding standard is, it's key.
And what's immediately striking is where this document comes from. It's issued by the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions, AAOIFI.
Ah, okay. The big one?
Yes. That immediately signals its immense authority. This isn't just some casual guideline. It's from a globally respected body. They're standards. They're adopted by financial institutions, by regulators worldwide.
Right.
It really highlights its critical role in standardizing and legitimizing Islamic finance globally.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this blueprint then. Even just from these excerpts, you can see a very clear, very logical structure. We've got three main sections laid out before us. The first is titled Winsana No, which you said means text of the standard.
Correct.
And the section includes these incredibly granular numbered points, like 1, 2, then 2.1, 2.1.1, 2.1.2, 2.2, 3.1, 3.1.1. It keeps going.
Yeah, and the granularity, that numbering system, it isn't just for, neatness. It reflects the meticulous detail needed to ensure Sharia compliance. Every nuance of the financial contract has to be considered. Think about Salam contracts, for example. Payment up front, goods later. You absolutely need precise rules about delivery dates, quality, quantity, to prevent ambiguity. That uncertainty, or gharar as it's known, is something Islamic finance aims to minimize.
Gharar, right, heard that term.
And this structure directly tackles it. It leaves very little to chance.
That systematic approach, I can see how it ensures clarity, but playing devil's advocate for a moment, couldn't that level of detail, that granularity, also risk maybe stifling innovation or make these instruments seem overly rigid compared to, say, more flexible, conventional frameworks?
That's a fair question. It's definitely a point people raise.
Yeah.
But what we often find, actually, is that this rigor, by clearly defining the ethical boundaries, it paradoxically fosters innovation within those set parameters.
How so?
Well, it provides a secure, trusted kind of sandbox for developing new products, rather than just a free-for-all. It's about designing products that are financially viable and ethically sound right from the start.
Okay.
And that ultimately is what builds investor confidence and market integrity.
Makes sense. But what truly brings the standard to life for me, and frankly makes it so compelling, is the next section. It's called Odie son souci.
Basis for Sharia rulings.
Exactly. Basis for Sharia rulings. And look what's underneath that title, this really intriguing string of numbers and symbols. You've got this 123.36.1496, A327.813.46. It goes on, A543.47, ASHI43226, and so on. What are these?
Now this is where you see the profound foundation of Islamic finance made visible. While we don't have the specific key right here to decrypt every single one,
right,
in Islamic jurisprudence, references like these typically point to very specific sources. It could be a particular verse from the Quran, perhaps a hadith, a saying or action of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, from a specific collection.
Okay.
Or even a citation from a classical legal text, maybe a fatwa from a recognized scholar.
So it's like footnotes, but with deep religious and legal weight.
Precisely. It's not just decorative. This represents scholarly rigor. It allows anyone to trace the ruling directly back to its original religious or jurisprudential source. And that traceability is absolutely critical for legitimacy, for trust, and importantly, for auditability within the Islamic financial ecosystem.
Wow. That level of transparency is really remarkable. It's not just, here's the rule, but here's the rule and here's exactly where it comes from. Trace it back yourself.
Yes, exactly. It underpins the whole system.
Then finally, we have a section simply titled Selentnirs, or definitions.
Yes, definitions. Seems straightforward, maybe even a bit dry.
Maybe at first glance.
But in a field as specialized as finance, and especially Islamic finance with its unique terminology, Think garar, which we mentioned, or riba, meaning interest or usury. Clear definitions are absolutely paramount. They're foundational. They prevent ambiguity, ensure everyone's on the same page across different countries, different institutions. They are the bedrock for consistent application.
Right.
Without them, even the clearest rules can be misinterpreted, and that leads to problems.
Costly disputes, I imagine.
Costly disputes, certainly, but perhaps more importantly, a deviation from the core Shari'ah principles.
That's a crucial point, because in finance, ambiguity isn't just, a nuisance. It's often where the real problems start, or where ethical compromises might creep in. Reminds me of those classic legal battles over the interpretation of a single word in a contract.
Absolutely.
So these definitions aren't just academic exercises, they're the practical backbone. They ensure real-world compliance and uphold the integrity of these financial contracts.
Couldn't put it better myself.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the blueprint of this Shari'ah standard. We've seen its intricate design, the layers. But stepping back now from these specific elements, what's the broader takeaway here from dissecting such a meticulously structured document, not just for understanding Islamic finance, but maybe for how we approach complex systems generally?
Well, I think this deep dive, even though it's just brief glimpses we've had, it profoundly illustrates that Islamic finance, far from being some opaque or mysterious system, is actually built on a highly structured, ethically verifiable foundation.
Verifiable, I like that.
Yes. It shows how the sector proactively tries to tackle potential ambiguities, potential ethical gray areas through rigorous codification, and crucially, through direct justification from its core principles. It's about ensuring both financial viability and adherence to religious tenets.
So our exploration of this Shari'ah Standard Number 10, Salam and Parallel Salam, it really reveals that behind every specific Islamic financial product or transaction, there lies this meticulously crafted framework. It's grounded in deep ethical and religious considerations. It seems like a system genuinely designed for clarity and accountability.
That's certainly the goal, and the structure reflects that intention.
So, for you, the listener, perhaps it's a reminder that truly understanding a complex system, whether it's financial, legal, technological, whatever, often begins by examining its foundational documents, its standards, the principles that actually drive its structure. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how this model, which is centuries old in its principles, with its emphasis on transparency, on ethical grounding, on meticulous documentation, how it might offer valuable lessons for conventional finance today.
It's a compelling thought.
Especially now, as the world increasingly grapples with the need for more responsible, more sustainable financial practices. Could this systematic approach to principled finance, could it actually provide a unique kind of blueprint for the future?